Professor Catherine adjusted her translucent wings nervously as she faced the diverse group of alien students in the Galactic University's Xenoanthropology classroom. Today's lesson on human military history had already generated more controversy than her entire previous semester combined. "Surely, Professor," chittered Zixtal, her mantis-like limbs folding skeptically. "These human war stories are exaggerated fiction. No species could engage in such extensive combat and still achieve spaceflight." The holographic display behind Professor Catherine showed Earth rotating slowly, peaceful blue and green against the cosmic void. She took a deep breath through her respiratory slits and activated the next presentation module. "I assure you, the data is verified through multiple independent sources," she replied. "Human combat history spans their entire recorded civilization. Let us begin with what they called ancient warfare." The hologram shifted to show Roman legions marching in perfect formation across rolling hills. The students, representing 12 different species from across the galaxy, watched with mounting disbelief as the display demonstrated Roman military tactics. The humans called this the testudo, or turtle formation. Catherine explained as the holographic soldiers raised their shields in an interlocking pattern. "Notice how they solve the problem of projectile defense through collective coordination rather than individual shielding technology." Velnara, a crystalline being from the Andromeda sector, resonated a confused harmonic. "Professor, our species' conflicts lasted mere cycles before diplomatic resolution. How long did human wars typically last?" "The 100 Years' War between England and France lasted approximately 116 Earth years," Catherine replied matter-of-factly. The classroom erupted in shocked vocalizations across multiple species communication methods. Corinth, whose slug-like species had never experienced warfare, secreted stress pheromones that required immediate air filtration. "Over a century?" gasped Trillex through his breathing apparatus. "My people's longest conflict was resolved in 6 days. What could possibly sustain hostility for so long? Territory, resources, royal succession disputes, and what humans call national pride," Catherine listed. "But this is merely the beginning. Observe the human innovation known as the Charge of the Light Cavalry." The hologram displayed the Battle of Balaclava, showing British cavalry charging directly into Russian artillery positions. The alien students watched in stunned silence as the simulation showed horses and riders falling under withering fire. They deliberately rode toward the weapons firing at them," whispered Zixtal, her compound eyes dilating with shock. "Human military culture often valued courage over tactical logic," Catherine explained. "They had concepts like death before dishonor and glory in battle. This particular charge was recognized as a tactical disaster, yet humans still commemorate it in poetry and song." Velnara's crystalline structure flickered with distress signals. "This defies all evolutionary logic. How did they survive as a species?" "Ah, but here is where human warfare becomes truly fascinating," Catherine said, advancing to the next display. "Observe their capacity for innovation under pressure." The hologram showed the beaches of Normandy in 1944. Landing craft approached heavily fortified shores, while aircraft filled the skies above. This Operation D-Day involved coordinate attacks by land, sea, and air forces. Over 150,000 human soldiers participated in a single day's battle. Corinth's eye stalks retracted in horror. 150,000 combatants. Our entire military consists of 12 ceremonial guardians. The scale increases exponentially, Catherine continued relentlessly. The humans' World War II involved over 100 million active military personnel across 6 continents and 4 oceans. The display shifted to show submarine warfare, aerial dogfights, tank battles across desert landscapes, and jungle fighting in the Pacific Theater. The alien students watched in growing amazement as the hologram demonstrated the sheer scope of human conflict. "Professor," Trillex asked weakly, "how many humans died in this single conflict?" "Estimates range from 70 to 85 million, including civilians." The classroom fell into absolute silence. Several students' breathing apparatus clicked rapidly in stress responses. They lost nearly 100 million individuals and continued fighting? Zixtal's voice carried a note of horrified awe. "Not only continued fighting," Catherine said, "but developed increasingly sophisticated weapons. Nuclear fission weapons, radar technology, rocket propulsion, early computers all advanced rapidly during this conflict." She activated another display, showing the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. The mushroom cloud rose in terrible silence as the students processed what they were witnessing. They created weapons capable of destroying entire cities. Velnara's harmonic frequency had dropped to barely audible levels, and immediately began developing more powerful versions, Catherine confirmed. Within 2 decades, they possessed hydrogen bombs thousands of times more destructive. Yet remarkably, they developed a concept called mutually assured destruction that prevented their use. They achieved peace through the threat of total annihilation. Quarent's stress pheromones were now visible as a green mist around his desk. A tense peace, but peace nonetheless, Catherine acknowledged. This brings us to perhaps the most shocking aspect of human military history, their capacity for restraint. The display showed modern peacekeeping forces, international humanitarian law, and rules of engagement protocols. Despite their capacity for devastating warfare, humans developed elaborate codes limiting their own destructive potential. The Geneva Conventions, rules protecting civilians, restrictions on weapons deemed inhumane even in war. They sought to minimize suffering. Trill X raised a tentacle uncertainly. "Professor, I am confused. How can a species be simultaneously so warlike and so?" Catherine smiled, a gesture her species had learned to appreciate from human diplomats. "This is the central paradox of human nature. They are capable of extraordinary violence and extraordinary mercy, often within the same individual. Their greatest warriors often become their most passionate advocates for peace." She brought up images of military veterans working in hospitals, former enemies becoming allies, and warrior cultures producing philosophical traditions about the value of life. "Perhaps," suggested Zixtal thoughtfully, "their capacity for conflict is inseparable from their capacity for growth. Our species evolved in peaceful environments, but humans forged their civilization in the crucible of constant challenge." An astute observation, Catherine agreed. Human military history reveals a species that learns rapidly, adapts constantly, and never abandons hope for something better. Their wars are terrible, but their peacemaking abilities are equally remarkable. Velnara's crystalline form had stabilized, her harmonic frequency returning to normal. "I begin to understand why the Galactic Council voted to accept humanity, despite their violent history. Such a species might be exactly what we need as we face the unknown challenges ahead." As the class session ended and the alien students filed out, their conversations buzzed with new respect for their human fellow citizens of the galaxy. They had come expecting to study primitive barbarism and instead discovered a species whose greatest weakness might also be its greatest strength: the relentless human drive to overcome any obstacle, no matter how impossible it seemed. Professor Catherine watched them go, wondering what shocks awaited them in next week's lesson: human industrial innovation under wartime pressure. She suspected they weren't ready for the story of how humans had gone from first flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years, largely driven by military competition. Some truths about humanity were simply too extraordinary for most alien minds to fully grasp.